Hey there, all you beautiful Broadway babies! Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 70 of Broadway Jeopardy! My goodness, 70 episode 70. If you love Broadway history and musical theater trivia, hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. I do have 26 all-new clues ready to test your musical-loving minds, so without further ado, let's get right into this week's game. This is Broadway Jeopardy! Looking at the categories for this week's game, we start off as always with last game's Final Jeopardy category, which is... Yes, this entire week is a celebration of all things Schmigadoon in honor of it announcing a Broadway run for this season. For this first category, we're looking at just the first season of the best musical TV show of all time. After that, we have Corn Puddin', taking a look at some musical references to corn in different shows. That's followed by You Remind Me of an Old Friend. In this category, we're looking at some plays and musicals that different Schmigadoon cast members appeared in on Broadway before their time in Schmigadoon. Up next after that is With All of Your Heart, looking at some show tunes with the word heart in the title. And last but not least, we have the Schmalphabet. This is a visual category where I'll show you an entry from the amazing book The Schmalphabet, a Schmigadoon alphabet book by Ray Kampf and Cinco Paul. I'll definitely tell you more about that book later, but I'll be blocking out a word from the book's text, and you name the missing word or name. And we end with the Final Jeopardy category, so make sure and keep track of your scores if you want to play along, so you can wager some or all of your imaginary earnings on that final clue. We start off, of course, with the $200 round, or the Overture round as we call it, but be warned, as the clue amounts increase, so does the difficulty level. Let's cross that bridge to Schmigadoon and get things started with your first $200 clue, which is... The wicked Mildred Layton whips the town people into a frenzy, warning of the tribulation these newcomers pose, in a clear homage to this number from The Music Man. What is Ya Got Trouble? The number Tribulation came in the 4th episode of Season 1 titled Tribulation. The number is an amazing feat of TV magic. The entire 4+ minute rapid-fire patter song was not only one continuous shot, but thanks to the brilliance of not only Miss Chenoweth and the entire cast and crew, but also the director Barry Sonnenfeld and most importantly choreographer Chris Catelli, that song was done in one single take.
Now, I've got nothing against outsiders, provided they're the right kind of people. Kind of folk who look and talk and act like us, like bees in a pod and birds in a feather. Not loud mouth trash with their Tommy Rock, flap, doodle, crack, trot, fiddle, faddle, jiggery, pokery, stirring up the cream while we're waiting for it to settle like vermin in the root cellar. Flies in the buttermilk.
Moving on to the Corn Puddin' category, your next $200 clue is... In Oklahoma, Curly remarks that the corn is as high as this animal's eye. What is an elephant? Apparently you want your corn crops to be knee-high by the 4th, as they say, though ultra farming nowadays puts it more like shoulder height by the 4th of July. As for an elephant's eye, that's about 6 to 7 feet tall on average, and that's the height you want your corn crops to be at August. So, you know, there you go. The $200 clue in the You Remind Me of an Old Friend category is... Aaron Tveit originated and returned several times to the role of Christian in this film-based musical, which he won the Tony for. What is Moulin Rouge? Moulin Rouge and its leading man were triumphant at the 2021 Tony Awards, the first Tonys back after the pandemic. Several races were small or even eliminated altogether because of so few eligible productions, but no race was crazier, I think, than the Best Actor in a Musical race. For the first time in Tony history, there was only one nominee, Aaron Tveit. Normally you think that there would be no nominations and then they would just award him the Tony unopposed, but that was not the case that year. Tony voters were either to vote for giving him the award or for not giving him the award. Yeah, so in theory they could have opened the envelope that night and read no name, which would have been just a horrible thing to do to anyone, but luckily that didn't happen and Mr. Tveit got his Tony. Answer the next $200 clue with all of your heart. It's A love triangle between Marius, Eponine, and Cosette comes to the forefront in the song A Heart Full of Love in this epic musical. What is Les Miserables?
And I knew it's true. These are words he'll never say.
And finishing up the Overture round in the Schmalphabet category, your first $200 visual clue is Poor blank is where we find our P, a man with great endurance, who's prone to lots of accidents. Let's hope he has insurance. Who is Pete? Oh, poor Pete. As I mentioned earlier, this wonderful Schmalphabet book has art by the wonderful Ray Kampf and text by Ray Kampf and Cinco Paul, the creator of Schmigadoon himself. I bought mine the second I heard about it, of course, as the giant Schmiga nerd I am. I will, of course, put a link in the video description if any of you want to check it out and maybe get one of your own. It's really wonderful. This video is not sponsored by this book at all. I just am a huge fan and like promoting stuff that I think you guys would like too. But for now, this one is going back on my display case. Sorry, Pete. I hope you all done tamed that first round. Let's move on to the only slightly harder $400 round now. Circling back to Schmigadoon, your first $400 clue is town rapscallion Danny Bailey runs this romantic ride at the town carnival, which he takes Melissa on at the end of episode 2. What is the Tunnel of Love? Though the romantic ride Danny Bailey was manning was really only a small loop in a dark tunnel, which I suppose is all you need for a romantic ride, it was a somewhat working attraction. The incredible set team on Schmigadoon built the full Tunnel of Love on the set, and the cast and crew could even ride in it. Over in the corn puddin' category, you knew I was gonna have to ask at least one question about Shucked, so here we go. For $400, in the hilarious Shucked, the independently owned Lulu, who runs a whiskey distillery, was originated by this performer who won the Tony for the role. Who is Alex Newell? Newell, who is non-binary, got their start with the Glee Project, a television competition series to win a guest spot on the then popular TV show Glee. Though they ended up being a runner-up on the Glee Project, due to Newell's popularity, they were given a 2-episode guest spot on Glee anyway, which ultimately led to a reoccurring role during the show's final few seasons. They made their Broadway debut in the role of Asaka in the 2017 revival of Once on This Island, before taking on the Tony-winning role of Lulu in Shucked. Looking at one of my favorite people ever in the You Remind Me of an Old Friend category, the $400 clue there is the wonderful Anne Harada created this role in the original cast of Avenue Q. What is Christmas Eve? Anne Harada, who played the role on and off for the entire Broadway run of the musical, also took on the role for a series of benefit concerts called Christmas Eve with Christmas Eve starting in 2009. The charity concerts for Broadway Cares were held annually around Christmas time, obviously, from 2009 until 2016. The evenings would have Christmas Eve surrounded by a bevy of Broadway hunks as they were billed, singing a myriad of show tunes. The $400 clue in the With All of Your Heart category is, according to the song Heart from Damn Yankees, when the odds are saying you'll never win, that's when this should start. What is The Grin? Damn Yankees looks to be coming back to Broadway in the near future. An updated adaptation of the musical is currently playing the Arena Theater in Washington, D.C., starring Rob McClure, Jordan Donica, and Anna Villafane. And that production has its sights set on Broadway. One of the lead producers of this revival is Haley Swindle, who happens to be the eldest grandchild of George Steinbrenner, who famously owned and managed the actual Yankees for over 40 years. And your final $400 visual clue in the Schmalphabet category is A is for Aloysius. He's the blank of Schmigadoon, and also the Grand Marshal of the Pride Parade in June. What is the Mayor? This sweet, closeted Mayor Aloysius Menlove was of course played on the show by the wonderful Alan Cumming. While we don't officially know much of the cast for the upcoming Broadway run of Schmigadoon, in the musical's run at the Kennedy Center this past winter, the role of Mayor Menlove was played by Brad Oscar. Brad Oscar is one of Broadway's top character actors working today, and I know he would be a perfect and very touching mayor. Box stepping right into the $600 round now. Back again at the town of Schmigadoon, your first $600 clue is a daily double! Remember, how it works here on Broadway Jeopardy is you answer the first part, you get the $600, answer the more difficult part 2, and you double it to $1,200. Alright, your doubled up Schmigadoon clue is Melissa and Josh are told at the end of the very first episode that they cannot leave Schmigadoon by a man who happens to be one of these. For double points, we learn on the very last episode of Season 2 that this is his name. What is a leprechaun is the right response to part 1, and what is Oscar is the right response to part 2. As a lifelong Martin Short fan, I was thrilled to see the funny man make an appearance as the leprechaun that, as the clue states, we later learned is named Oscar, and he works with his Season 2 counterpart named Steven. A brilliant nod to Oscar Hammerstein and Stephen Sondheim. Hammerstein was Sondheim's mentor and teacher, and both came to represent, quote, the sort of old and new musical theater. The $600 clue in the corn puddin' category is the love-struck Nellie Forbush in South Pacific describes herself as being as corny as this in the song A Wonderful Guy. What is Kansas in August? The original Nellie Forbush in South Pacific was of course Mary Martin in one of her many career-defining roles. When Miss Martin left the show, she was replaced by Martha Wright, a performer handpicked by Rodgers and Hammerstein to take over the role, which she would play for over 1,000 performances until South Pacific closed in 1954. Actually, Martha Wright also replaced Mary Martin in The Sound of Music. But during South Pacific, if you just happened to catch the show between October 13th and November 8th, 1952, when Martha Wright took a temporary leave to head the national tour, you would have seen understudy Cloris Leachman in the role of Nellie Forbush, which just would have been a blast. What an odd pairing. Time to reminisce with the You Remind Me of an Old Friend category and the $600 clue. Jane Krakowski made a gag-worthy entrance while in a towel upside down in the 2003 revival of this Italian set Moriestin musical. What is 9? Miss Krakowski played the sultry Carla in 9, and as the clue stated, made her spectacular entrance upside down while wearing only a towel. I've seen lots of Broadway magic in my time, but seeing her enter and leave like that, and with nothing poking out that wasn't supposed to, it will always amaze me. Over in the With All of Your Heart category, your next $600 clue is in 6, Jane Seymour, who claims to be the only one Henry VIII actually loved, sings the solo Heart of This. What is Stone? The writers of 6, Lucy Moss and Toby Marlowe, have stated in interviews that Heart of Stone was the most difficult song to write in the song cycle. Less is known historically about Jane Seymour as opposed to the rest of the 6, so the writers really had a blank page, as they put it, when it came to Jane Seymour historically. The number, which is meant to evoke the style of Adele or Sia, is the only real ballad in the musical and reportedly also contains the highest and lowest notes sung in the show. And opening up our Schmalphabet books again gives us the $600 visual clue. L is for Doc Blank. He's as handsome as they get, which may help when his patients learn he's actually a vet. What is Lopez? Doc Lopez was played by my friend Jaime Camille on season 1. I'm telling you guys now, Disney needs to bring in a musical version of their movie Coco and have Jaime play Ernesto de la Cruz. He'd be so perfect in the role, and I have seen Jaime in concert sing Remember Me, and I was blown away. Disney, I know you're big fans of Broadway Jeopardy and watch all the time, so, make it happen. It's time to crank the difficulty level up a few notches with the $800 round now. But before we do, if you're enjoying this week's game, please help me out by hitting that like button for me. It really goes a long way to getting these videos shown to more fine folks like yourselves, but also makes me feel like I got the highest bid at the picnic basket auction.
$2. All I got in the world.
Thanks everyone, I truly do appreciate it. Okay, let's get this show on the road with the $800 round. Back again in the little town of Schmigadoon, your first $800 clue is: the mayor and Reverend Layton share a tender moment at the bake sale over these baked goods. What are rhubarb squares? I definitely have never had a rhubarb square, and I don't actually think I've ever actually tried rhubarb before either. Have any of you had rhubarb squares? Are they any good? Should I try one? That sweet scene between the mayor and the Reverend is in the upcoming stage musical, and it contains one of 3 new songs in the show, which I cannot wait to hear. Let's look at an oldie but a goodie in the corn pudding category with the $800 clue. In the Pulitzer Prize-winning musical Of Thee I Sing, written by these 2 legendary brothers, leading man John falls for the lovely Mary partly because of her amazing corn muffins. Who are George and Ira Gershwin? Ah yes, 1932, and musical theater love plots could hinge on the leading lady's baking abilities. I'm only playing, of course. Of Thee I Sing is a brilliant satirical show roasting Washington, D.C. and the government. As the clue stated, Of Thee I Sing not only won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama in 1932, but was the first musical to ever do so. The $800 clue in the You Remind Me of an Old Friend category is: future Oscar winner Ariana DeBose was featured in the original cast of the smash hit Hamilton, where she famously gave life to this inanimate object. What is the bullet? It's been suggested that the role of the bullet that Miss DeBose played is much more than the simple handling of the bullet in the fateful duel scene towards the end of the musical. The non-speaking role is believed by some to be death itself. The ensemble member interacts with characters like John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton shortly before their deaths, and is also very prevalent in scenes of battle, and anytime death is mentioned, that bullet is usually right there. Have you heard about this secret role in Hamilton before? It's really quite interesting. Looking at a love duet in the With All of Your Heart category gives us the $800 clue. Bobby and Hope sing the sweet song Follow Your Heart in this satirical 2001 musical. What is Urinetown? Urinetown is another on my list of how has there not been a revival of this musical yet. It was recently presented at City Center Encores though, starring Jordan Fisher and Stephanie Styles as the smitten Bobby Strong and Hope Cladwell.
Just laughter and gladness. If only I follow your heart.
And finishing up the round with another letter of the Schmalphabet, your $800 visual clue is: blank dances on her desk and spells epiphany, and she also ends this alphabet as she is letter Z. Who is Zanita? Zanita is of course a reference to The Music Man, which has a character named Zanita. We meet Zanita in Schmigadoon with the rest of the kids in Miss Tate's class, and their number With All of Your Heart I think has to be my favorite song in season 1. Definitely in my top 3 Schmigadoon songs of all time. Do you guys have a ranking? I'd love to know your top 3 Schmigadoon songs. We've reached that point, my friends. The big show, the main event. It's the $1,000 round. Let me hear that dramatic music. Best of luck, players. Our last visit to Schmigadoon brings us the $1,000 clue. Nancy, the unwed expectant mother shunned by the town, has a sailor boyfriend named this. What is Freddie? Freddie is no doubt a reference to Freddie Eynsford Hill, Eliza's lovesick suitor in My Fair Lady.
I assume this is the father?
Yes, ma'am. Seaman Freddie Drakes.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Please don't tell them Freddie was here.
Nancy and I want to get married, honest, but her ma doesn't approve of sailors on account of the way we curse so dadgum much. Sorry.
The $1,000 clue in the corn puddin' category is... This off-Broadway show took one scenario and imagined it as 5 different musicals written by 5 of the great theater composers. The one spoofing Rodgers and Hammerstein is called Corn. What is The Musical of Musicals, the musical? Written by Joanne Bogart and Eric Rickwell, Musical of Musicals started off-Broadway in 2003 with a return engagement in 2005. As the clue stated, the love letter to musical theater took one basic scenario, a woman who can't pay her rent, and imagined it as 5 different musicals done by 5 of the great musical theater makers of the last century. Part 1 is titled Corn, as I mentioned, in the style of Rodgers and Hammerstein. Part 2 is titled A Little Complex and is a spoof of Sondheim. Part 3 is called Dear Abby and is a send-up of Jerry Herman musicals. Part 4 is a spoof of Andrew Lloyd Webber called Aspects of Juanita. And the 5th section is called Speakeasy and is a spoof of Candor and Ebb. Let's look at a play now in the You Remind Me of an Old Friend category with the $1,000 clue. After his celebrated run in the 1998 revival of Cabaret, Alan Cumming starred in a revival of Design for Living, a slightly scandalous 1932 play by this author and librettist. Who is Noel Coward? Design for Living first premiered here in the States in 1932 and not in Noel Coward's home country of England because the play was deemed too racy for British audiences at the time and wouldn't be seen there until 1939. The comedy concerns 3 artists, Gilda, Leo, and Otto, who have sort of a 3-way entanglement, if you get my drift. Noel Coward wrote the show for himself and acclaimed actor couple Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. Though of course anything in the homosexual arena was innuendo only in the 1930s, for the 2001 revival of Alan Cumming along with Jennifer Ely and Dominic West, the undertones became overtones with the male characters even sharing a kiss. Tapping our way back into the With All of Your Heart category, the $1,000 clue there is... Carlos and his fiancée Marissa contemplate their relationship and future together in the song My Crazy Heart, in this short-lived show with a score by David Yazbek. What is Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown? Based on the Spanish film of the same name by Pedro Almodovar, Women on the Verge as a musical, I thought was pretty fun. It boasted an incredible cast including Sherry Renee Scott, Justin Guarini, Patti LuPone, Laura Benanti, Danny Burstein, and Brian Stokes Mitchell. The musical had a tumultuous time on Broadway, however, and the new musical ended up running less than 3 months, including previews. And the curtain call visual clue in the Schmalphabet category is... J is for Josh Blank. True, he acted like a jerk, but then he sang his heart to Mel, the man put in the work. What is Skinner? Yes, it's Josh Skinner and Melissa Gimble who are our main couple. While I know we are all still baffled and upset by Season 3's cancellation, there is hope. Not only might the Broadway production give a renewed interest in the show to audiences and hopefully Apple TV, but Cinco Paul has stated in interviews that he has always imagined Schmigadoon as an on-stage trilogy. Here's hoping. Thanks again to Cinco Paul and especially Ray Comp for letting me use some of their book and amazing illustrations in the game today. And now we've reached the final Jeopardy round, everyone! Time to tally up those scores and decide how much you want to wager in the category... Yes, we're gonna look at Season 2. We had to. Okay, has everyone made their wagers? Steve? Joey? Tyler? Wendy? Okay, here is your final clue. The Krat Club in Schmicago has a neon sign out front promising this type of German-flavored eye candy. What is Fräuleins? One of my favorite little details in the set of Schmicago has to be the Fräuleins sign. It's just such a great gag for a German style, you know, Fosse type bar, but instead of girls, you get Fräuleins. I mean, you get the joke. I don't need to explain it to you. I just am obsessed. And that's this week's game, Yee Honk! How did you all fare this week? Are you the new mayor of Broadway Trivia? Or was your game a bit of a schmiga dud? Be sure to let me know in the comments. I always love hearing from you guys and seeing how you did. As always, a huge pile of love for my patrons over on Patreon. I love you guys with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel and keep the videos coming, you can check out my Patreon using the link in the video description. And of course, another big way to help support me and Broadway Jeopardy is to share these videos all over social media. You can follow me outside of YouTube on Instagram, or you can email me directly. I will be back next week with episode 71, but until then, I'm Mark Badani. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for playing. You know, I was trying to think of a fun little button to put at the end of this episode, but I couldn't think of anything, which is a shame because, you know, who doesn't love buttons?